professional people have drawn Daniel's statue. So if you can find it's just called Daniel's statue, it'll come right up. And there's several copies of it. I like this one actually because it'll give the timeline and what it's about. Everybody have that? Okay, so otherwise I would Xerox my stick figure. This is just much better. And it also gives you the dates in Daniel. Let me say this today. If you're not confused today, you will be. I'm still confused on Daniel. And I've listened to the best teacher in the world on Daniel. And still, it's like, oh Lord, this is so over my head. And I'm a Bible teacher, and if I'm confused, so if you're confused, please just say, I'm confused, I have no idea what you're talking about, because I think Max Lucado did a masterful job of how much he put in Daniel, but he didn't put all of it because it's just too complicated. So obviously Max Lucado made his book very, very simple that we can at least understand some of it. I will tell you this, when Daniel wrote the book of Daniel and also John wrote the book of Revelation, there's only 2 books in the Bible where the author is confused. Daniel says, I don't know what you're talking about. And God says to him, put it away, Daniel, because you're not going to understand it. But somebody in the future is going to understand what you're going to write. John was the same way in Revelation. At the end of Revelation, he said, I am sorry. You've given me so much, but I still don't understand. And God said, put it away, because you won't understand it, but the people in the end times will. Now, I do believe we're in the end times, but you're still going to be confused. Okay, so you got that? Now, with your pen, no. Remind me, I want everybody to download an app today called Verse by Verse Ministry. And we'll all do that together at the end of the class, so don't worry about it. The guy named Stephen Armstrong teaches the book of Daniel, and literally when I tell you this, you will listen to it over and over and over again, and you still won't understand it. And he's probably one of the foremost Bible teachers I've ever sat under. So if I'm confused and you're confused, join the crowd.
What's his name? Daniel Armstrong, did you say?
Stephen Armstrong. And he's dead. He died during COVID. He died at 54. He was an amazing teacher.
Wow.
But I listened to Stephen Armstrong probably every day of my life. He's that good. I love good Bible teachers. I've learned more from him than in my whole life. So, Carol, you have that downloaded.
I do, and I have listened.
Now, I'm a widow, and so sometimes when I go to bed, because I don't have anybody else in my bed, I just turn Stephen Armstrong on, and sometimes I listen, and sometimes he just puts me to sleep. Now, he would probably be offended at that, but my friend Ann Conway, she does exactly the same thing. I have a number of widow friends, and we all miss our husbands in our bed. However, we just put Stephen Armstrong right beside us, and we just listen to him. And I'm sure that Don and I, before Don died, we had just really gotten acquainted with the Verse by Verse ministry, and we would just get in the car and turn it on the radio and just drive for as long as we had a lesson, and then we'd as soon as he was done, then we'd talk about it. The best Bible teacher, bar none, I've ever heard, ever sat under, and I can't wait to meet him in heaven. He's just been a godsend to so many of us. When Max Lucado wrote his book, open to page 39, because that's the beginning of his chapter on Daniel. He makes a statement, and he actually got this probably from Stephen Armstrong. By the way, they were good friends. And Stephen Armstrong actually spoke in Max Lucado's church on end times, and I'll have you scroll down on that. Let me ask you the question. Is a lot of this stuff that we're covering new to some of you, all of you, most of you? Raise your hand if it's new stuff.
It is still. You're still
It's-
telling me
it's
new
still
stuff.
new stuff.
I'm on the second round and I'm still learning new stuff, so.
What I think is interesting is because of the time that we're in, we are understanding. Did you know that nobody understood the book of Revelation till about 100 years ago? Most churches didn't even cover it because it was so out there. It was so preposterous. And then all of a sudden, people started studying Revelation, and when they did, they also started studying Daniel. Daniel has been known as the revelation of the Old Testament. There's so many correlations from Daniel to Revelation. John, obviously, when he wrote Revelation, had Daniel. So even when he's writing, there's so much references back to Daniel. But even then, John didn't understand it all. So anyway, on page 49, and you guys don't have this underlined, but I just wanted to say this. History is right smack in the middle of the page. History is not endless succession of meaningless circles, but an ordered, orchestrated movement toward God's eternal goal. I love that sentence because the Bible is not written to confuse us. The Bible is written to prepare us for all that God has in store for us, not only in this life, but in the life to come.
I'm sorry, where was that?
What page is that
Where are
on?
you on?
40,
40.
40.
yeah. Yeah, he starts the chapter on 39,
Okay.
There.
but that's right by that box.
History in the middle. It's right in the
Yeah.
middle.
History is not an endless succession of meaningless circles, but an ordered, orchestrated movement toward God's eternal goal. So everything in the Bible is toward that goal, that we will not only understand the times that we're living in, but we'll really look forward to the time ahead. So there's a lot of living yet to go on planet Earth before we actually get to the new heaven and the new earth. And I think a lot of people here, and I think it's because this is how we've been taught. We've been taught that when we die, we go to heaven. End of story. Right?
That's what I thought. Yep.
But then nobody tells us, number one, what's in heaven and what are we going to do. And so people just say, okay, well, we'll find out when we get there. And that's been the philosophy of many churches. Some churches today, still the philosophy, we'll find out when we get there. And God says, no, I've given you books to read. You don't have to be unaware of what's happening in the future. Randy Alcorn was the first guy that, in my lifetime, that I ever read that said heaven is only a stopping place. It's not our final destination. And I thought, what?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been taught, you die, you go to heaven, period, end of story. And so Randy Alcorn's books, Carol has taken my class on heaven and the end times, but aren't those the two classes that we never hear about?
Right.
Right. We don't hear about heaven, we don't hear about the end times, and so we're unaware of what's happening in our world. When you think about politically, everything that's happening in the world has something to do with the Bible. And by the way, when you read Daniel, he talks a lot about Persia. Anybody know what Persia is today? It's Iran. So who's been in our news? Persia.
Mm-hmm.
It has a different name. The name is Iran, and that hasn't been very long, by the way. It's only been in the last, I think, 50 years that Iran has been Iran. It's been Persia for century after century after century. So, you know, when you kind of know the name changes of some of these countries, you realize, did you know that Cyrus the Great, he was a great man, he came out of Persia, out of Iran. So, and by the way, we've talked about this too, there's revival going on in Iran, so we need to pray for the people of Iran. There's revival going on in Israel as well, and we just need to pray for all of that.
Is Roberta still up there? If she can,
Roberta, are you okay?
I was afraid of calling.
Are we dark?
It's great.
Okay, all right. If I see that you're, just holler at me and I'll push the button. Look in that next paragraph, right under what I just read. One of the earliest references to the timeline appears in Daniel 9 during a surprising conversation between God's prophet and the angel Gabriel. That vision is often called the backbone of Bible prophecy. So if you can, even a semblance of beginning to understand Daniel and a semblance of understanding Revelation, you've come a long way. And by the way, I told a couple of the women, I'm leaving Saturday on an Alaskan cruise. And Ann Conway and I are rooming together, and we're going, this is a study cruise on Revelation and Daniel. So I am so excited about it. I don't know, Amir Sarfati, he's a Jewish, Messianic Jew, is going to be one of the teachers, and Jack Hibbs out of California, Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills.
And you get to come back to us.
And we
after
get to
that.
come back, and I'll probably still be as confused as I am today.
So are we meeting Tuesday?
You're probably meeting, but I'm not.
I don't know, we didn't meet the last time. We'll talk about that when we pass the papers out.
Okay.
Don't let us forget that.
Okay. So look at page 41. Well, okay, back up. Daniel was a prophet. Does anybody know how they determined if you were a prophet of God or a false prophet? Do you know does anybody, raise your hand if you know?
I think I know.
Carol?
Interpreted dreams was one?
No?
No.
I
Okay.
mean, yes.
Obviously, I didn't know that.
And the prophets did interpret dreams, but
That
that's
was
not,
one of the things,
that's
okay.
not the condition.
Okay.
Here's the condition. Oh,
If it came to pass, I presume.
yes. When?
I don't know when, but it was that it came to pass.
Okay, it's
Okay.
in their lifetime. So a prophet was, like all the prophets in the Old Testament, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, the determination of being a prophet was that if they had to predict something that would happen soon in their lifetime. If they did and that came to pass, then they would be a prophet. And so their books, by the time Daniel is writing his book, Jeremiah, he quotes from Jeremiah. Jeremiah was already a known prophet. And so whatever happened in Jeremiah's life, things had already happened, what he predicted, and so they knew that the rest of his prophecy would be true. And so that, now, if you predicted something and it didn't happen as you said it was going to happen, guess what they did? They stoned you. You were dead. So if you were a false prophet, you didn't live very long. Okay? Yes, question?
Well, I was just gonna comment on stoning. I saw something horrible. We think that they just throw rocks at the front. But the way they had done it for women who had,
Let me see. Oops.
they dig a hole in the ground, put her in the hole,
Just a little.
so she had no way to
No, move
escape.
that purse.
Oh, because it's got to be higher?
No,
That's not working?
no. It's because I keep having to push the button. Sorry, Roberta.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, we're back.
I'm sorry, Eileen, go ahead, honey.
Yeah,
We're
I was
having technical
distracted.
She said that they put, from what I read, it's horrible, they would dig a hole and put the person in it to maybe this high enough. And then everyone would get around and throw rocks at her.
Yes, and they do that today in Muslim countries.
I read somewhere too that they would wait until she would go out, and then they would get her revived and do it over
Yeah, Roberta, we're talking about stoning, which is a horrible, horrible death. You don't want, nobody wants to be stoned. And we gotta pray against the Muslim guy that's running for New York, you guys.
gosh.
Pray against that, because he hates the Jews and he's made it known, he's trying to cover that up. Anyway, that's your prayer life, is that guy cannot come to fruition.
And there's so many Jewish people in New York.
Yeah,
I mean,
so, back to Daniel. In Daniel chapter 2, which is one of the, we all know the story of Daniel in the lion's den and Daniel in the fiery furnace, and those stories, those are mixed in with his prophecy, which is interesting. So Daniel 2, 7, 9, and 12 are prophetical chapters. All the rest of them is what's happening in Daniel's life with he and his friends. So just to know that. Now, I had you open to the statue of Daniel. That is chapter 2. And so this chapter proved who he was as a prophet. So if you look at your statue, and I have a stick figure of it, so I'm just going to look at my stick figure. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and by the way, I believe Nebuchadnezzar at the end of his life became a believer, so I think we might see him in heaven. That'll be exciting, and he's going to tell us all about Babylon. But Nebuchadnezzar had this dream. He couldn't interpret it. He was going to kill all of his, what they called prophets, who were probably all false prophets. And so, Rebecca, are you okay? Roberta, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the statue and other things talking to me.
Okay. Oh, okay.
it's on the, I'm not sure we started recording right away. You need to Google Daniel's statue, and the picture will come up.
Yeah.
We probably need to put a note on that before
Okay.
the video.
So look at the statue. You've got a head of gold, a chest of silver, kind of a stomach. What do you call that down there? The thigh, the belly of bronze. And then you've got 2 legs of iron. And then at the bottom, you've got 10 toes of clay plus iron. So what Daniel prophesied, he was in the era of Babylon, but he also goes into Medio-Persia. So that right there confirmed that he was a prophet of God. Because by the time he goes in under Darius the Mede, and that's I think in chapter 7 or 9, by that time he's established as a prophet because what he said came true. So Babylon is Nebuchadnezzar. That's the Babylonian Empire. And if you Google on your phone the map, it's very interesting. So you can Google the map of Babylon, and it'll show you what areas of the Middle East was Babylon. And then Medio and Persia, Iran, conquered Babylon. And so it'll show you what those places were. Greece under Alexander the Great. See, this is now beyond Daniel. Daniel does not live into that era. But the bronze is Greece, and it was divided into 4 of his generals, Alexander the Great's generals. So this is all history that Daniel is visioning. Nebuchadnezzar is actually visioning, and Daniel interprets it. The legs are iron, which is Rome, and Rome was always called iron. A very strong, they controlled the world at the time of Christ. So Rome, that's that one. Rome was in power before Christ was born, Rome was in power after Christ died. So Rome was, and all through our Bibles, it talks about Rome, doesn't it? The generals and even some of the people in the Roman culture that became believers. Who crucified Christ? Who else? The Jews and the Romans. Who gets blamed for it? The Jews. Yes, it was, and I'm so thankful, in a sense, that it was two peoples that crucified him. Otherwise, we could say, well, these people, but if you and I had been there, we would have crucified him, yes.
I heard somewhere that it's actually God the Father who did it,
Yes,
because Jesus is the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world.
yeah. So God the Father killed him. The Romans put him on the cross. That was a Roman cross. And the Jews, Caiaphas and his priests, also crucified him. The iron and clay mixture, prophetical people right now think we are in that period of time, the 10 toes. Rome was in control until about, I can't remember what it was, somewhere in the 1800s, early 1800s, 1830s, something around that. That Rome was in control from the time of Christ all the way up until our present time. Iron and clay means a mixture, and I look at that as modern day Europe. You've got England and France and Germany. They're all divided. There's not one culture like America. We have one president. In Europe and all over the Middle East, it's just everybody's ruling their own country. Does that make sense? So I really believe that we are in the 10 toes period of time. Will it actually come down to 10 toes? Maybe not. But there's 10 toes, meaning that it's more than. Babylon was 1, Medo-Persia was 2, Greece was 4, Rome was 1, and then the 10 toes are a mixture of cultures.
So is that like the 10 kings, sort of?
What?
The 10 toes are like the 10 kings.
Yeah, it's because none of us, I mean, we're all divided. The whole world is divided right now, which was not true. Babylon controlled the world. Medo-Persia controlled the world. Greece controlled the world. Rome controlled the world. And now we have a ton of people controlling the world. We've got the UN. We've got, the global whatever. Okay, any comments on that statute? So that's chapter 2. What Daniel is predicting, and that's not in the book. Max Lucado didn't deal with this. But I just wanted to go back into that to show you that Daniel, that statue confirmed him as a prophet of God. So chapter 2 confirms him. And then what Max Lucado then does, he's basically in Daniel chapter 9. So when you go to verse by verse, I want you to listen to the whole book of Daniel. It's fascinating. But he does also a masterful job on chapter 9. So look at page 41 in your book, and that verse 924, right at the top of the page. God has ordered 490 years for your people and your holy city. Who is that?
Israel.
That's Israel. For these reasons, to stop people from turning against God. Has that happened?
No.
To put an end to sin? No. To take away evil? No. To bring in goodness that continues forever? No. To bring about the vision and the prophecy? No. And to appoint a most holy place? They don't have a temple. No. That verse itself, there has nothing been fulfilled in that verse. So the question is, well, when is that? If Daniel is a prophet and he's a prophet, he's been confirmed, and yet now he's talking about this amazing time that's coming. It has not happened yet. So when is it gonna happen? Part of it is going to happen during the millennial reign of Christ. The rest of it will happen in the new heaven and new earth. So Daniel, when he sees this, when he's talking about this, he's not seeing this coming to pass anytime soon. And he doesn't know when it's coming. He's just writing as God is revealing it to him. So it talks about 490 years. But it talks about, okay, from 490 years, when does that begin? So this is where I get confused, this is where you guys are gonna get confused. So if you're confused, fine. The next paragraph, he limited this prophecy to your people and your holy city, that means to Israel. Meaning Daniel himself, a Jewish man, was told the future state of the capital city and his kin. After 490 years, the Jewish people would again, and then he lists those. Have these decrees been fulfilled? Do Jews stay away from sin? Has the temple in Jerusalem been rededicated? No, no, and no. These events have yet to occur, so obviously the angel was describing a spectacular era in the future. So when will this begin? It's at the conclusion of the 490 years. And this is why it's confusing, because there's a timeline here, but it's not Daniel's timeline. And then, and I love the way Max says, so Gabriel gave prophecy, read just about the time we pull out our calculators and our calendars to measure 490 years from the day of Daniel's prayer, Gabriel gave prophecy number 2. So he's basically saying, Daniel, I'm not done yet. So don't ask me when this is gonna happen, I'm not done yet. So then he says, a command will come to rebuild Jerusalem. The time from this command until the appointed leader comes will be 49 years and 434 years. Are you confused? Thank you, so am I. The Hebrew term for appointed leader means Messiah. So, and on the next page, he said that there was a guy named Robert Anderson, and he took those dates in Daniel and began to say, okay, when is Messiah going to be cut off? And look at right in the middle of the page 42, the 444 BC. Do you see that number? Just circle that number with your pen. So then he says we have a starting point, 444 BC. And then go down to Anderson determined. See that paragraph? That the 483rd year occurred during Passover AD 33, specifically April the 6th. So now we know the exact date on our calendar that Jesus died. You know, do you know why our calendar was changed? This is so confusing for everybody. The calendar is that we live by a Gregorian calendar. The Jews still live by the creation calendar. Did you know that? So if you go to Israel today and you see a newspaper, or if you can order a Jewish calendar, and I suggest you do that. The Jewish calendar has the date from creation. Isn't that great? I wish we did. But we started with the death of Christ or the birth of Christ, and so our Gregorian calendar was done by the Catholic Church early on. And so that's why you and I live according to the Gregorian calendar, and the only people that live according to the creation calendar is still the Jewish people in Israel. I love it. I love it. So if you get a calendar, and I get one every year, a Jewish calendar, you can tell how many years we are from creation. What is it?
So what year is it? Do you know?
We're close to the 6,000 bracket. We're at 5977, something like that. we're very, very close to the 6,000 bracket from creation. So, and you know what? I love that because that even cancels evolution out, doesn't it? Because they have kept the same calendar since they started keeping track of the days and the time and the hours and the years, which I love. So I order I usually, and you can Google it, you can order a Jewish calendar every year. It would be fun for you. And I don't know what the date is because I didn't bring a calendar. It's a little different than what the Creation Museum has in Cincinnati. Cincinnati has a little bit more time on it, and they did it from the ages of, starting in Genesis, from the ages of people down through history. So that's how they do it. Any questions on that? So what happened is when Messiah was cut off, let me go back in your homework, and hopefully y'all did that, and even if you didn't do your homework, that's fine, because the book is very educational. And by the way, you're gonna have to read this book. You're gonna have to read this book 3 and 4 times. Don't think that you can read this book once and know it. So read it again and again and again, and put your name in it and say, please return to.
You'll never see it again.
Well, the reason I say that, my son was with me not too long ago, and he started reading it at my house. He didn't know I was teaching from it. And he took it to Montana. My book is in Montana. So I called my daughter Tiffany, and she hadn't read hers yet. I said, I need your book. So I'm now marking up Tiffany's book.
She'll appreciate it.
But I told Todd when he comes back, I need my book back, because I underline and write the margins and do all kinds of stuff. Are any questions on that? So that was 480, 83 years? Yeah. So in the book, he talks about, well, what happened? God pressed pause. There's 7 years left. So those of you that have heard prophecy, who've sat under prophetical people, there's a 7-year period of time that has not been accomplished. That period of time is supposed to be a really hard time for the world, and that's called the tribulation. And the first part of it is just called the tribulation. The last 3.5 years is called the Great Tribulation. It's going to be awful. In this study, you'll see that as you and I are believers, and by the way, some of you are coming from churches that do not teach this. Max Lucado actually says that. Did you pick that up in his book? Where did he say that? He said at one point in the book, I was not taught this. I didn't grow up learning this. I was not in a Bible school or a seminary or a church that taught this. But I have been doing my own study, and I've changed my mind. So, and I knew that about Max Lucado. So when this book came out, I thought, whoa, something happened in his life, which it did. I grew up in a church that sometimes they taught prophecy and sometimes they didn't. And so I was always kind of a little confused, but also intrigued with the end times messages. There's more and more, if you listen to Jack Hibbs, Gary Hamrick out of Virginia, if these names are unfamiliar to you, those are great Bible teachers, by the way, in our present day. They're right down where Max Lucado is, where I am today. So you're going to see that I truly believe this, but there are some churches who absolutely do not believe this. So don't be surprised, and especially if you go to a church that does not believe this. If you go to a church that says the millennium is now, that Christ is ruling from our hearts, he's king of our hearts, and he's ruling from planet Earth in our heart, that's called millennium now. If you're in that kind of a church, that's fine, they teach the Bible, they teach salvation, they teach grace. So don't worry about that. This is a little different than what some of your churches are teaching. Does that make sense? So don't get confused about that. I have studied different theologies, and I told you that in going back into the Middle Ages and where it all started. So look at page 45, the backbone of Bible prophecy. He has that little chart down there at the bottom, the command to rebuild Jerusalem out of Nehemiah. And I don't know why he started there. Messiah's cut off, then the tribulation millennium. Here's what I want you to do. Go back to your the big chart in the first of the book. Okay, this chart, your big chart. I'm going to have you draw a line because Daniel starts this idea, and it's called the time of the Gentiles. You and I are Gentiles. If we're not Jewish, we're Gentiles. In the Bible, there's only two, Jews and Gentiles. The Bible does not have any other indication of differences. There's nothing called race. There's nothing called anything but male and female, Jew and Gentile. That's it in Scripture. Roberta,
Sorry,
we put you back up.
it's okay.
Okay, thanks.
This is wonderful. I had a deal.
She doesn't feel good.
So if you'll take your pen, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Do you want somebody to take you out to your car?
No,
You sure? Okay.
If you'll take your pen from the timeline of Daniel and put it all the way to the millennium, all the way to the millennium. So we've got so you're gonna, I should have done it. You're gonna draw a little line all the way to the millennium.
Here, you want to use mine? I
The
have
return
it.
of Christ, millennium.
I have the line.
Oh, you have the line?
Do you want to use it?
As we did it last time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I didn't know if you
Carol's
wanted to
gonna
show it.
show you hers.
Okay. From Old Testament all the way over to the millennium. Just draw a line under that. I put like an arrow because she's going to give you more lines.
And then under that or above it or somewhere on the line, you're gonna write time of the Gentiles. Time of the Gentiles. Not only does Daniel start talking about that, the New Testament, especially in the book of Romans, really talks about that the time of the Gentiles, the millennium will start when the time of the Gentiles is over. The church age, which you and I are in, which you'll see right down here at the bottom, the church age, that's us. You and I are in the church age. This is where we are right now. And the church age has been going on since the death of Christ. When Christ told his disciples, I want you to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That started the church age. Jesus started it at the end of the book of Matthew when he says now to his disciples, go into all the world and preach the gospel. You and I are grafted in, Romans chapter 11. We're Gentiles. We are not Jewish. We're grafted into the Jewish stock. So when you read Romans 11, you and I are the grafter inners. We're not the originals. The originals are Jewish. And one of the things I've stressed, our Bible is Jewish to the core. It's all about the Jews. It'll always be about the Jews. And you and I are grafted in. Praise God, we're grafted in. Because it's never been about us. It's been about the Jews. It's still about the Jews. God is working among his people in a way that you and I will probably never even begin to understand. And that one day, and that's going back to the covenants, the Jeremiah covenant, that one day all Israel will be saved. And the book of Romans talks about that as well. All Israel will be saved. Every Jew on the face of the planet will know the Lord. And that's coming. It has not come yet, but it's coming. So we'll get into that when we get into the rapture of the church, the tribulation, all that. Any questions on that? Time of the Gentiles. Yes, Roberta.
On that chart, the church age, above that it says paradise.
Right.
Okay.
Are any of the rest of you confused on that word too? You know what?
It's heaven.
Just put in parentheses heaven.
Oh, okay.
And so let me tell you why he put paradise. This is so interesting. I would have put heaven, no question. When Jesus died on the cross and the thief next to him became a believer, he said, today, you'll be with me in paradise. Where was paradise? So get your chart out again, Carol.
Okay.
In the chart, I also had people draw this circle right down at the bottom. And on the circle, did I do this last week?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Sheol at the top, Hades on the left, paradise on the right. This is where Jesus went the moment he died. It took him 3 days to resurrect. He hadn't resurrected yet. He was cleaning out paradise. So at the cross of Christ, paradise was cleaned out. So Max Lucado continues to use the word paradise in the chapter even. And every time I say it, I just put in heaven. So it's the same thing. And at one point he says, is heaven the same thing? Yeah, not really, yeah. I don't know if you saw that. And I'm thinking, well, it is called heaven now. When you and I die, we don't go to paradise, we go to heaven. So,
Temporarily.
temporary.
Temporary.
Temporary abode.
Temporarily for thousands of years.
Okay, on page 46, right at the top of the page, he says, you might be wondering why the gap. That's the 7-year gap. Why would God create this separate phase for the church age? And it's so that you and I could be grafted in. That's why. So God pushed pause, the church age began. Another thing to understand about when Christ came the first time, and on your homework, if you do your homework, you'll find a lot of this in there, but what was the purpose of the first coming of Christ? The cross. Dying on the cross. That was the purpose. He had to suffer and he had to die. But look at your page. I wish I put pages on these. Number 3 on, the top of the page says Psalm 22, that page on your homework. Number 3, why were the Jews only looking for a king and not a suffering servant? So Zechariah 9:9 says your king is coming. Your king. It doesn't say your suffering servant's coming. It says your king. And so when he's riding on a donkey, what are the people doing? Putting palm branches in front of him. Why? What were they expecting him to do? Get off of that donkey and do what? Take over Rome. That's what they were expecting that day when he rode. And he knew he was going to the cross.
Oh, excuse me, y'all. I ain't mean to cut y'all off. I need your paper, because I don't have enough of
We
it.
had some made, I don't know where they went.
Oh,
I just came back.
Okay.
Look at these
Look
right
what
there.
this one is. This one says, here's,
I'm sorry,
okay, here's the
I didn't
page
cut y'all
she's,
off.
there's the page she's on.
Okay.
This one is last week's.
Okay,
Um,
so you got that?
This one on there.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
we're
the
on
one.
right now.
So
Yeah.
I'm unorganized today.
Oh, okay.
And you can stay there. You can stay- Okay.
Thank you.
Zechariah 9:9, it says your king is coming riding on a donkey. And so when Jesus actually got on that donkey, they saw that as a fulfillment of this is your king. And so they were putting palm branches in front of him, and what happened then? He went to be crucified. They weren't expecting that. They were expecting Jesus to get off of that donkey and say, I'm here as your king, and I will now conquer Rome. That's what they were expecting, and that didn't happen. Matthew 2:2, this is the Magi coming to the baby Jesus, and what did they call him?
King of the Jews.
King of the Jews. That was Old Testament prophecy. And so the Jews were looking for their king. And don't you know that Mary and Joseph, when they came and brought gold and frankincense and myrrh and all the things that these amazing men brought him, they knew who he was. Mary and Joseph knew who he was. They too, I think, expected a king. And by the way, you know, shortly after that, remember the angel came to Joseph and said, get up, get out of here, go to Egypt because Herod's seeking his life. He's going to kill him. So they immediately arose and they went to Egypt and stayed there for a while. We don't know how long. And what did they use for money? The gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. God provided for their family to stay in Egypt until Herod was dead. Isn't that neat? So God brought these kings all the way from Babylon. They all came from Babylon. But they called him the King of the Jews. Where is this King of the Jews? Micah 5:2 says that the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem, Ephratah, and he will be ruler in Israel. Again, if you and I had been in Old Testament times and we saw all these prophecies concerning our Messiah, and what were we expecting of him? He didn't fulfill that. He was a suffering servant. He was humble. Luke 23:37, Pilate put King of the Jews on the cross, and the priests, the Jewish priests, Caiaphas and all those guys, said, no, you should have said, he said he's King of the Jews. And Pilate said, I've written what I've written. And we do know that Pilate's wife became a believer. We don't know about Pilate, but we do know Pilate's wife did. And she's the one that had that dream, remember? Matthew 19, what was Jesus predicting? He was predicting that he would sit on the throne. So all those covenants in the Old Testament, especially the one of the Davidic covenant, is that Jesus would sit on the throne. Has he done that? No. And so this is where the Jews rejected Jesus as Messiah because he did not fulfill what they had anticipated from their scriptures, from the prophets of old. That makes sense? And so God said, okay, the Jews rejected, so now I'm going to graft in the Gentiles. Come on in. And so the church age began, and aren't we thankful that we've been grafted in, Romans chapter 11. Any questions on that? So that's page number 2. And how are we on time?
Good, you have about 20 minutes.
Okay.
23 minutes.
I was still, yes, Rebecca. I mean, I keep calling you Rebecca. Roberta.
Because before we talk a prophet, to be a prophet, you have to have the prophecy come true in your lifetime.
Yes.
So Jesus was never considered a prophet then.
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting story because what did, though, come true in the lifetime of Jesus? He had followers.
He did miracles, yeah.
He did miracles. In fact, Stephen Armstrong, you guys are going to get on Stephen, and I don't know where he said this, but the Caiaphas, the high priest that crucified Christ, they were looking for specific things in the Messiah out of the book of Numbers. And I'm not gonna say what those are because I can't remember, but there were certain things that if Jesus did this, then it would confirm that he was messianic. Well, he did. He did. He raised the dead, right? He healed the demonic. He did
Changed water to wine.
changed, yeah, water that had no grapes in it. He did numerous things to show his messiahship, but they still didn't believe because they wanted somebody to conquer Rome. That's what they wanted. That's what they wanted. And he didn't do that. So, and by the way, about midway through the teaching of Jesus, he only taught for 3 years. About midway, he goes then into parables. Why do you think he did parables? He said, I'm going to do parables because those that can hear will hear, and those that can't won't. And so he did parables, and they were kind of like puzzles, putting puzzles together. And so he continued at that point to only teach in parables. And that confused all the Caiaphases of the world. That was confusing to them.
Don't the Mormons believe he was a great prophet?
Well, so does Islam,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. And he was more than that. Okay,
Obviously, yeah.
now Max Lucado drops in a chapter that I thought, okay, if I was writing this book, I would not put it here. Obviously, I didn't write the book. Max is a good author, and he's written a ton of books. How many books has he written?
Oh, my
100.
God.
I don't know how many
They're
books
in the
he's written.
front, isn't it in the front?
Yeah, they're all in the front of the book.
They're in the front. It's all that whole
A whole
page.
page of how many?
Right
So-
here. You can see it
so
in
I'm-
mine if you don't
So
want to
I'm
look it
thinking,
up.
okay, well, he had his reasons for putting this chapter in. It's not, to me, it doesn't follow, however he put it in, so I want to talk about it. Because what he's gonna do is he's doing a prelude to the actual millennial time of Christ. And I think what he's doing is giving you a taste. Okay, this is coming, but I want to concentrate on a few items in the chapter, which is power. So let's go into that. The chapter is called the millennium what? Now I'm going to confuse you even more. Page 51, turn to page 51, and with your pens, if you have your pen in your hand, on the right-hand side on 51, about midway in the book, where it says some see it as figurative. Well, let's go back. Students of the Bible interpret this text in different ways. You got where I am? Okay, so some see it as figurative or non-literal language, and they believe that we are in the millennium now. Those are your Reformed churches, and I could list them if you want me to. I just looked them up the other day, all the Reformed churches. You've got Presbyterian, Methodist, so some of you are going to be of these. Catholic Church, Greek Orthodox, Lutheran, Reformed Baptist. Not all Baptists are that, but Reformed Baptist is. So those are called amillennial. And amillennial simply means we are in the millennium now. Okay, and I'll come back to these in just a minute. Others believe the kingdom of God will gradually progress into a time of worldwide peace. I don't know who those people are. That will end with the second coming of Jesus. So this is a group of people. There's not a lot of these, by the way. Postmillennialism is not very popular because there's really nobody that believes that the world is going to progress and progress and progress till it's perfect. I mean, really, very few people believe that because we constantly are in a time of turmoil, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
In the whole world. I mean, there's never been a time in which we've had peace for very long. We have wars and rumors of wars and constant stuff. So that position is very rare, I will say that. And then at the next paragraph, still others interpret Revelation 20, and by the way, that's a really good chapter on the millennium, as describing a literal 1,000-year period in which Satan will be bound and Christ will be king. Most call this premillennialism because it refers to Jesus' second coming occurring before the millennium. That's where Max Lucado stands. He's premillennial. I tend to be premillennial, just in my studies, but don't ask your pastor to teach on this if they're not premillennial, because that's going to be really, and don't say to your pastor, hey, I just went to a Bible study and this is what they taught, and so I don't believe what you're teaching. Don't do that. Every Bible believing church, and he talks about this on the somewhere on the page 50 at the top. Every Bible believing church believes in the visible return of Jesus Christ, the bodily resurrection of the dead, and the final judgment of all people. We all believe that. And so somebody said you don't argue about things that you can't win. So just don't do that with your pastor, but just kind of know this is where my church stands, this is where my pastor stands. And if you stand here, then you stand here. But you may not. Even after taking this class, you may say, no, I'm amillennial. I believe that Jesus is reigning in our hearts now. We're in the millennium. There is no millennial reign of Christ. He's ruling in our hearts now. And so some of your churches will believe that. Don't get confused with it. Don't argue with people. But here's what I do. I always, if somebody asks me questions, I will say, this church believes this, or your church believes this, and this is where I stand, but don't get in an argument about it, because it's not worth it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We're not to be argumentative Christians, but I think we are to know where we stand. And I've been premillennial for a very, very long time.
If I may
and-
add,
Now,
We got a question.
just one more comment. On page 52, before it says promises, right at the bottom, this is his testimony right here. What leads me to that conclusion? The answer is that Jesus will physically rule on planet Earth. Interesting question. I never had a premillennial pastor or professor. The seminary I attended taught that the millennial kingdom is the current age. Yet as I studied scripture for myself, a shift in my thinking took place. And the reason for that shift can be listed in the acrostic power. So that's his testimony in a paragraph. Make sense? Okay, now there was a question here.
Yes, we had a comment.
I've done a few
Bible studies,
Revelation studies from different
angles.
teachers.
Yeah,
David Jeremiah being one of them.
yeah.
And there was something that he said in his study that has stuck with me for years and years and years. And he says, for those that think we are pre or post,
Yeah,
he says, we are still living in a time where the grace of God is still
absolutely.
when the rapture happens,
Mm-hmm.
the grace of God will be removed as well.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the great tribulation,
Yeah,
we have no idea
right,
what it will be like to have no manifestation of the grace of God.
right. Yes, David Jeremiah is definitely premillennial.
Mhm.
So,
So is that the same thing as being pre-trib? I mean, you know,
yes, yeah, pre-trib, premillennial, yeah. And the verse by verse ministry international, he's definitely pre-trib. So just know that going in, when you're listening to Bible studies, you kind of have to weigh, okay, where are they coming from? But I think a lot of Reformed churches don't even teach any of this. They just don't even touch it. So, if you're in a Reformed church, they won't even touch this. So if they don't touch Revelation, they sure don't touch Daniel. Okay. Now, he goes into power, P-O-W-E-R, promises yet unfulfilled. And I like all of this. We're gonna get into this in chapter 13, big time. So basically, he's just laying out an acrostic that power means promises yet unfulfilled. And that's why he went into the covenants. The covenants have not been fulfilled. Some of it have been fulfilled, but not all of it. For instance, Abrahamic covenant, the land, that has not been fulfilled. That will be fulfilled during the millennial reign of Christ. The Davidic covenant, that David's son will rule forever and ever and ever, that has not been fulfilled. The Jeremiah covenant, that all Israel will be saved, that hasn't been done. So the covenants, if you believe in the Old Testament covenants, you have to come to the conclusion that something's coming down the road where these things will be fulfilled. Otherwise, God wouldn't have put them in there. So if we believe that the Bible's true, and we're hanging on every word, then the covenants are yet to be fulfilled in totality. So, and then the next one is power, and then overthrow of Satan, and he goes into that, and I think we can all conclude he's not been overthrown yet. He's not bound. He's clearly alive and well on planet Earth. I think we see that in so many cultures of the world. The demonic stuff. I hate to say it, but the Muslim community and what they believe, it's just, Satan's alive and well. So the overthrow of Satan has not occurred. And the promise is kept. He goes into a couple things, longevity and the harmony of the animal kingdom, which is going to happen in the millennium. We'll get into all that in chapter 13. So this isn't all there is on this chapter. Then the word-for-word interpretation. Again, if you believe the Bible and the scriptures, by the way, he got that statement, when the plain sense of scripture makes common sense, we will seek no other sense. That first time I heard that was Stephen Armstrong in Verse by Verse. Then go down to the next page, the early church fathers, and he goes into Papias and Irenaeus, Tertullian, and Justin Martyr. Those were all Jewish historians, and they all believed in the literal reign of Christ on planet Earth. Then the resurrection in Revelation, go down to the very bottom paragraph there. 2 resurrections are for the redeemed, and one for the redeemed and one for the rebels. There will be a resurrection for those of us who know Christ, and there will be another resurrection for the unbelievers, and where they are then put after at the establishment of the new heaven, new earth. So there's 2 resurrections right there. And then he just kind of sums it up.
Do you think people are gonna have time to switch over once they realize what's happening?
Well, there will be people during the tribulation. It's gonna be so bad that yes, there will be people but they will be martyred for their faith. Now, people are martyred today for their faith. What was it? And somewhere there's a huge stuff going on about martyrdom.
Yes.
Is it Rwanda or something?
I'm trying to think, I just got one on my phone where a church was bombed
Yeah,
this weekend in another country.
yeah.
And then a few weeks ago, they went in and just killed everybody in
Everybody.
church.
Yeah.
The children, everybody. That goes on. If you want more info on that, Jay, what's his last name, from American Law and Justice?
Yeah.
Yes, Secular, thank you. He sends emails out on that about what's happening. And it's almost like, it's so hard, it makes you feel so helpless.
Yes.
I mean, if there's stuff like, when stuff happened in Kentucky, you all helped. When stuff happened in Western North Carolina, you helped. But it's so hard when you hear all that. It just breaks your heart, but you feel so helpless.
Well, and I think what's happening is that the Lord is separating the goats from the sheep. There's so much revival going on everywhere. in Asia, in Europe, in the Middle East, in America, it's happening, revival is happening. But Satan knows that his time is limited. So he's not sitting down, believe me. And so he's going to take out as many Christians as he can. Now, we don't have time to get into week 5, which is after my cruise. I don't know what y'all are gonna do next week, but if you want to, and I don't know if there's, I don't know how to do this, Carol. In our class at Grace, we showed a movie one
Oh,
day
yeah.
called the Before the Wrath. And this would be a great movie to see before we actually get into the rapture.
Okay, let me,
So I don't know, you're not gonna be here next week.
No, I'll be
right?
here next week, the next week. I could check on it.
Well, this movie was done by Amir Sarfati, who is on my cruise, and Jack Hibbs. But they did it in 2020 during the COVID period of time. But they took the Gospel of John, and it's called Before the Wrath, and that means before the rapture. After the rapture is the tribulation. And it's the biblical statements of Jesus to his disciples, and it's in wedding language. And his disciples understood. They understood this is wedding language, and Jesus is teaching us what it means to be married to him in the future. And so it's a fascinating
It's amazing.
movie. I've seen it 4 times, 5 times. I love it. Before the Wrath.
So we can watch it next week?
Yeah, you can watch it
Well-
at home, or somebody can.
yeah,
pull it up on the
I'm trying
screen.
to see, but they have to pay to get it, so.
It's $2.99.
So
It's
who get, let's see,
$2.99, if anybody wants to cough it up.
Before the Wrath is the name of it?
Before the Wrath.
Okay, who did they check with at church?
Well, the church paid for it.
Okay, well, that's no issue, I paid the $2.99,
Yeah,
but,
$2.99. It's not. Now, it is $4.99 on one side, it's $2.99 on another. Just go for the cheapie.
okay.
So do you all want
It
me
is-
to try to get that,
it is
and
a
then we'll
great
meet next week
movie,
instead of
and-
skipping?
In light of what we're gonna go into on the rapture and the tribulation, it spells it out biblically. So I think you'll really enjoy that.
Does this have the I mean, I guess we do, but
Is
do we
Mary
have
gonna be
to?
back next week?
I think so, yeah, Mary will be back next week, she hasn't said. But I gotta make sure that can hook up to the internet.
Right.
Okay,
If not, you can probably maybe do it on one of these small screens and put it in the middle of the table.
Yeah, we
whenever you
could.
got it.
okay, I'll check
Now,
on
the
that.
other
I'll look
thing you
in
can
there.
do is pull it up on your own television at home. It's called Before the Wrath, and the picture is a man and a woman, they're getting married, they're young. He has a black beard, cute couple. Anyway, but you can, it's worth watching twice, by the way.
R-A-T-H.
WRATH.
I had one question, when
Yeah.
you said, we were talking about the Jews all being saved.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the ones, today that have died that rejected Christ?
No, they won't be saved.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but then.
No, it's the people that are alive
Right.
during that
During that
time.
period,
It's
okay.
just prior to the millennium.
Okay.
And it's, the Jews are going to wake up, by the way. That's what Jeremiah is talking about. Before the physical reign of Christ, they will be ushered in. They will live in Jerusalem. Jesus is gonna reign from Jerusalem. Everything is so Jewish. No, but it's people alive during that time. They're the same as anybody else who's died unbelieving. They don't go to heaven. They won't be in the new earth. So is that
Oh,
clear
yeah,
that up?
that's what I was thinking, but when
Yeah.
that comment came out, I thought maybe I was wrong.
Well, you know what's gonna happen is it's the 144,000 Jewish evangelists. It will be a massive revival among the Jews. And it'll be amazing to watch it. But that's also during the tribulation, you and I won't be here. We'll be watching it from up there, upward.
Well, and then I also heard, and I like to believe this, the Jews that were before Christ, if they believed that the Messiah was coming, then they will be saved.
As Abraham did.
Yes.
Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they're believers. You know, there's a great verse in Romans. Let me pull it, in Hebrews, because I want you to grab this before we close.
Yeah, we
Because
gotta-
people
we
do
gotta a couple
ask about
things.
the Old Testament. Messiah wasn't here, but he was coming. Pardon me.
Did I hear you right when you said heaven is not a final spot?
Right.
Where do we go after heaven? Or is that something?
The new earth.
After heaven, we come back to earth, reign with Christ.
With the new
during
earth,
the-
which is not gonna be
during the
this one,
millennium,
because
yeah.
this one will be destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it won't be destroyed right away. We'll come back.
Okay, do y'all know
Yeah.
what chapter 11 of Hebrews is? It's the hall of faith. And every person in there is in the hall of faith. So, in other words, every person in there knows the Lord. Right? So it starts out with, I love this. It starts out, for by it men of old gained approval, how? Their faith. And then it says, by faith, Abel offered to God a better sacrifice. Next two people in line, Cain and Abel. Abel offered a better sacrifice through which he obtained the testimony that he was righteous. God testifying about his gifts. And though he is dead, he still speaks. Love that. Everybody in there, as though they're dead, they're still speaking. So why do we study the Old Testament? Why do we study Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? It's because their faith gives us faith. But I want to show you one thing that I caught one day, and it was like, oh my goodness. It defines the Old Testament. Abraham, faith, Isaac, Joseph, Moses. Okay, it's verse 23 of Hebrews 11. By faith, Moses, when he was born, baby, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. Now, it doesn't tell us much about his parents, but it was Moses' parents' faith that is now going to be passed to Moses. So by faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to endure ill treatment with the people of God rather than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. Now listen to this. Considering the reproach of Christ, Moses, considering the what? Did he know Christ? Yes, he did. Considering the reproach is the suffering. Considering the suffering of Christ. He understood the suffering Messiah. Greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking for the reward. So by faith he left Egypt. Wow, what a verse that is. Because we look at the New Testament and we understand it's the faith in Christ. How did Moses know that? His parents. His real parents, not his adopted mom in Pharaoh's court. His parents shared the gospel with him, and he became a believer in the suffering of the Messiah. I don't know how else that could be stated. So, but it just shows you that what was it that they believed in the Old Testament? It was that the coming of the Messiah was the one who cleanses them from their sin. So it's always been the Messiah, Old Testament, New Testament. So we're looking back on it. They were looking forward to it. And that, we're going to learn a lot in heaven. Did you know that? I mean, when you look at that one verse about Moses, we're going to go up to Moses and say, could you just tell me about your belief system? Because that is amazing. And he's going to say, well, my parents told me that, it's all there. And when he left Egypt, he had just killed an Egyptian. He was, that was self-defense for the Jewish person that was being persecuted. And but he knew that would cost him his life. So he left. And that's when he was in the wilderness, either before or after, he started writing the 5 books of Moses. So he probably wrote some in the wilderness, that 40 years that he was there. And remember, when God called him out and said, okay, Moses, time to go back to Egypt and get the people out, and he said, could you send somebody else? I love Moses, because we would have probably said, you know what, I'm old. I've got a cane, I'm on a walker, that's, Moses was old.
And he stuttered, right?
And he stuttered. And God said, it's okay that you stutter, I'll give you Aaron. Aaron's gonna be your mouthpiece. Aaron knows how to speak.
But
So-
didn't like Christ actually visit like Abraham and Sarah?
Yes. Yeah. So they knew him. But I love that verse in Hebrews, it just answers so many questions
Yeah.
that we have of Old Testament believers. All
Well,
right,
Sally, thanks again. We got some housekeeping things. Everybody get your phone out if you
Okay, and-
haven't already downloaded verse by verse.
Yeah, verse by verse. Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Go to your.
And it looks like, you can just do your app store or
Yeah,
whatever.
go to your app store.
And it has a cross on it.
It looks like a Bible with a sun and a cross.
And mine keeps going back. I'm trying to go home, and the last thing I did was the Gospel of John on it, and
Yeah.
it keeps going back to that.
Is he Calvary Chapel too?
No, he was in San Antonio, actually where Max Lucado was.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm gonna show you that.
Yeah.
Once you download,
Okay, I can't,
okay.
my phone's over there.
Oh,
So I
we
do
can
it
probably
later.
say bye to Roberta. We're,
We'll do it after. class.
okay, okay. Everybody got it, or you got any questions on it?
Verse by verse.
And then when you open it up, you can go to any book. Mine's stuck on John. I'm trying to figure out.
Mine's on Daniel, because I listened to it.
Is it like a yellow, circle around the crown?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, now when you get it, let us know when you get it.
Yeah, it looks,
Everybody have it?
it's got a book, the cross is white, the Bible's open up
Yeah.
underneath. It's got a gold circle kind of around the cross. We need to pass out all these papers too.
Okay, I can do that.
She was, just put them all together so they're not separated, that's the, know what I'm saying?
Oh, because we're gonna have to do this.
Yeah. Is it,
Okay, when you get it, let us know. When you
everybody
get
got
the
it?
app.
You need help? Okay. I'm gonna turn this off.